Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how Thames Water, one of the several failing privatised water companies in England, has essentially admitted that it no longer has a functioning business model, and ministers should really take note of that. Hopefully privately they already are, because Thames Water has said they need to increase their bills by 59% by 2030. So they're saying that their prices need to rise by 59% in 6 years. Now, is this reasonable? Well, organisations, doesn't matter whether they're publicly owned or privately owned, they do need to increase their budgets to take account of the inflation in their own costs, of course. You know, you've got wages, accommodation, materials, contracted services, and so on. All of those things increase, so you need to increase your prices to reflect that. That's fine. But you generally expect that to be in line with inflation nationally. Now, I'd absolutely accept that there will be some organisations who may have significant costs that run above national inflation. You know, if inflation is, at the moment, it's like 2.3%, it doesn't mean everything has increased in price by 2.3%. Some things have increased by less than that. Some things will have gone down, but some things will have gone up. And if your business has more of its costs that have gone up than down or stayed the same or at inflation or whatever, okay, your business may have to raise prices by above national inflation. For example, when it comes to the water company, the hard Tory Brexit has made obtaining the chemicals needed to treat sewage more difficult. So maybe there would be a case for water bills rising a bit above inflation, thanks to the Tory hatchet job on our supply chains. But is this what Thames Water are proposing here? No. Now, obviously, we can't predict what the inflation will be over the next 6 years. But we can hazard a guess it's not going to be 59%, because we do know what it's been over the past 6 years. Using the Bank of England inflation calculator, CPI is up 26% on 2018. Now, consider that that includes the last 2 years where inflation was really very high. We can't rule out another global wobble, of course, in the next 6 years, but there's no reason to believe that the next 6 years would be significantly worse for inflation than the previous 6 years. So what Thames Water are proposing here is to inflate their own prices by more than double the rate of inflation that we've experienced over the past 6 years. That doesn't seem remotely reasonable to me. If Thames Water are saying that their business can only survive by increasing prices by more than double the rate of inflation, then they're saying they don't have a feasible business model at all. The fact of the matter is, if Thames Water were not running an essential public service, if it was a business offering something that people didn't need, that they could get elsewhere, and which the government had no need to maintain, then it would have already gone bust. The business has already failed. The only reason it's still struggling on is because it is running an essential service. The arguments for privatisation put forward by the Tories never once talked about the needing of special arrangements to make it work. The promise was that harnessing the power of private enterprise would make bills lower and the service better. Now, obviously, anyone who ever claims you can deliver more for less should be treated with suspicion. Can sometimes be true, but only if whoever was providing it previously was incompetent or corrupt, right? In reality, decades later, what's happening here is the water companies didn't improve the service. It got worse. They didn't invest in infrastructure. You know, in fact, they stopped what infrastructure was going on. They didn't even build new reservoirs. The private water companies have not built a single reservoir in decades of being privatised. They just existed to make easy profits. They ran the bare minimum service to deliver water and charged as much as they could get away with. And now they've been found out. Labour have said they can't afford to spend the parliamentary time legislating for nationalisation of water companies, which is a fair point. They've got a lot of things to get through. But I'm not aware of any reason why we should not adopt the usual two-stage process. If a water company cannot operate as a business, obviously it's got to fail. What happens if it fails? The government sort of have to take it on with the intention of, you know, re-privatising it later on, right? This sort of happens every now and then. But then once there is parliamentary time in a few years' time, then you can bring these failed utilities back into public hands more formally. You know, from my point of view, what must not happen is we take on the debts. That's the key thing for me. And regardless of my own views, the Labour government won't anyway, so it doesn't actually matter what I think. It's political suicide. But it is obvious that privatisation has failed here. And I challenge any Conservative to explain how a business is viable if it cannot function without increasing prices by more than double the rate of inflation, or how such a scenario is in the interest of the public. I suspect I'll be waiting a long time for the answer. By saying they need a 59% increase in bills over 6 years to survive, Thames Water are essentially admitting that they don't know how to run the business. Now, either the people running Thames Water are incompetent, in which case replace them, or they're not, they just have an unsustainable business model, in which case abandon it, let it fail. Let's start to move away from this concept of privatising profits and nationalising losses. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.